I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
So moved and seconded that Article 1 be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. At this time, the moderator reserves the right to make appointments at a later time. Article 2. To hear reports of all town officers and committees for the year 2019. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
It's been moved and seconded Article 2 be accepted and adopted as printed. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. At this point, I will recognize Mr. DeCosta for the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This will not take long. I just wanted to give you some of the voters, some of the numbers as they compared to previous years. The explanation that goes with Article number 4, which begins on page 8 of your warrant, will give you a good summary of the events leading to today. The Board of Selectmen have prepared this compared to last year's 69 articles totaling $84 million, and the year before 69 articles totaling $104 million. So we're at 70 now. Contained in this warrant are project requests from the 7-year capital plan, which are roughly half the amount of last year's request, and there are no Proposition 2.5 overrides to follow this warrant. There are 5 operating budgets in this warrant, Articles 5 through 9. The smallest operating budget is the wastewater sewer budget, which grew from $225,000 last year to $272,932 this year. This budget will continue to grow as more construction on the sewer system is completed in the department. The water department budget is down just over $40,000 from last year. Due to a drop in enrollment by Howard students at the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School, assessment is down for the town of Howard by $594,000. The Monomoy Regional School District budget assessment has increased by $176,631. Although the town department budgets have increased along with state, county, and Cape Cod Commission assessments, the total town budget is down over $500,000 from last year, mostly due to retired debt. The total cost for all 5 operating budgets combined is $68,957,862, which is down from last year's request by almost $1 million, $980,237. So we've taken the time to reduce this as much as we could. Before I step down, I just want to thank the Board of Selectmen for putting together this warrant and for all the work they've done, and the town administrator, and our director of finance, and just all your public safety people and our health director that have made this all possible. I also want to thank longtime member Jack Brown, who is here today with us. Jack was chairman of the committee up until March and had to step down for some health reasons, and we wish him all the speedy recovery. Also, we have Angelo Lamontia from our group that could not make it today. He's home recovering, and we hope a speedy recovery for him. This is his first annual town meeting he has missed in many years. I want to thank Jack, Angelo, and the members of the Finance Committee for their efforts to bring you our recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Article 3. See if the town will vote to vote the salaries of the elected officials of the town for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2020, and ending June 30th, 2021 as follows, and to act thereon. Selectmen $2,400 each, moderator $1,000, water and sewer commissioners $1,000 each, library trustees $1,000 each, and town clerk $103,503. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant. Selectmen 5, $2,400 each, moderator 1, $1,000, water and wastewater commission 3, $1,000 each, library trustees 7, $1,000 each, and the town clerk $103,503.
The motion's been made and seconded. It's to adopt the article as printed in the warrant with the same amounts. There's no changes. Any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. Article 4. See if the town will vote to transfer from available funds such sums of money needed to fund budget shortfalls caused by the reduced estimated receipts caused by the COVID-19 enforced government shutdown, reducing town charges for fiscal year 2021 and to act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as
It is printed. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It is a vote. Article 5. This is the town operating budget, and as I indicated, this is Appendix A. I'm sorry? I've been reminded by our town attorney, Mr. Giorgio, that Article 4 needed a 2/3 majority to pass. I declared it a simple majority. So I'm going to go back and ask for the vote on Article 4 again. It's the article we were just on. The motion was to accept and adopt as printed. All those in favor of Article 4 so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. I rule that it got the necessary 2/3 majority. There is a statute and a bylaw that allows the moderator to call a 2/3 vote, and I do that. Motion carries. Article 5. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow such sums of money as may be required to defray town charges for fiscal year 2021 and to act fully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
All right, this is a long one. I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, and that the sum of $39,035,455 be appropriated for the purposes listed in Appendix A under the column entitled Town Meeting Budget FY 2021 with the following adjustments. So if you want to turn to that, you can go through the adjustments. Reduce line 140 debt service by $104,619 for a new total of $4,617, and reduce line 117 library salary and wages by $14,475 for a new line total of $730,885. And a new program total under line 119 of $1,005,705. And increase line 29 contracts by $14,475 for a new program total under line 30 of $571,502. And further, that the sum of $36,246,159 be raised and appropriated, and that the following amounts be transferred as follows. $166,779 from the Betterment and Septic Funds, $210,107 from the PEG Access Cable Related Fund, $341,750 FEMA Fund, $230,000 from Free Cash, $108,200 Structure Fund, $100,000 from the Golf Improvement Funds, $200,000 from Overlay Surplus, $100,000 from the Highway, Waterways, and Mooring Funds, $12,000 from the Town Clerk State Aid Fund, and $2,144 from the County Dog Fund. And further, that the sum of $730,290 be raised and appropriated in the general fund operating budget and allocated to the Water Enterprise Fund for the purposes of funding the fiscal year 2021 operating budget.
Do I hear a second? All right, the motion's been made and seconded under Article 5, which is the town operating budget. Those revisions to the budget are the revisions to Appendix A in your warrant booklet on pages 46, 47, and sequel, if you were following along. Our town charter requires the Board of Selectmen to present the budget to the town meeting, so I'll recognize the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Ballantyne.
Thank you, Michael. It's a further than normal walk to get to the microphone. Thank you for, excuse me for wearing my cap when you have as much hair as I do. If I don't wear a cap, it'll hurt to comb my hair the next morning. Thank you for attending this delayed town meeting and doing so in an unfamiliar location and format. I also, as Michael has said, especially want to thank those involved with making this meeting possible with the coordinated effort of Harwich Town staff and the Monomoy School staff. When we left the 2019 town meeting, we left the 2019 town meeting with a clear message that financial concerns were of utmost importance. Town expenses and corresponding taxes had increased due to recently completed and ongoing capital projects and greater than expected operational expenses. In acknowledging these concerns, it is important that we note Harwich's financial house is in good order, as evidenced by Standard & Poor's upgrading of the town's credit rating to AAA based on its evaluation of the town's very strong economy, strong management, financial positions, practices, and relatively low debt. What a year. Who would have thought we would begin our fiscal year with a tornado that did a lot of damage to certainly Harwich Center, where I live in East Harwich and around, followed by the COVID-19 pandemic. With the advent of the COVID-19, the budget concerns we started the year with became less relevant. Developing, informing, implementing safety procedures in line with the governor's guidelines took precedent over usual town operations. Safety requirements meant we closed town facilities, public meetings, and limited many town services. After these initial steps, services to our community, our Board of Selectmen's meetings continued by using video conferencing, and which I think we've learned as we go forward to make them better each meeting. Regulatory committees also moved to use video conferencing as much as possible to act on various applications. DPW reopened the landfill very quickly with single stream operation. The golf course and town beaches were open as soon as possible. I know I got many emails informing me that golf was critical to life itself, and so we are happy that those were open. Town staff employed computer technology to do as much work as possible from home. Of course, flu restrictions greatly affected our business community as well, as many were shut down or had severely limited services. While always keeping safety as a top priority, we have worked with the business community to offer any support we can. This support ranged from Board of Health and Health Director Megan Eldridge working within state guidelines to reopen businesses, training on policy procedures, and providing testing when advantageous. The Board of Selectmen, in accordance with new regulatory edicts, worked with restaurants for outdoor seating. We receive weekly updates from the business community to track successes and concerns. Megan and Joe Powers, who we thank for this meeting and all the work he's done, but they work tirelessly on safety issues, communication with staff and our community. Sometimes a thankless job as the guidelines seem to change almost daily. Our sincere thanks to town staff and volunteers for all they have done during this trying time, as everyone stepped up to continue to provide necessary services to town residents. We have also learned there is no uniformly accepted definition of risk. In this regard, we have and continue to listen to all residents' concerns and act when appropriate. Success, and I'm preaching to the choir, but success depends on respectful communication and understanding each other's perspective. Preparation of this year's operational budget was particularly challenging as both COVID-19 and revenue projections changed almost daily. Early assumptions were that revenues would be significantly reduced. Based on this, we instituted a hiring freeze, reviewed upcoming potential salary increases, and capital items which could be delayed. A top priority we had as selectmen was to protect personnel, not only to continue to provide town services, but to be in the position to become fully operational when safety procedures allowed. Initial budget estimates indicated a significant shortfall in fiscal year 2020 and a very scary deficit moving into this year. Receipt of a little over $1 million from the state to help pay for tornado damages and another $1 million promised from the CARES Act turned the fiscal year 2020 surplus into a surplus. Although these are both one-time payments and difficult to consider in the future, the surplus does add to our this year's free cash, which we have traditionally used to help pay for capital items. Local receipts picked up during the last half of the summer, and although still depressed, exceeded our initial assumptions with the latest information that this year's budget estimates is a 12% reduction over last year. Considering overall all sources of revenue, we project a 2% overall reduction. Through the somewhat harsh steps that I mentioned before, we managed to reduce our budget expenses to only 0.3% less than last year. Overall, the current budget shows a $574,000 deficit. Although we continue to explore additional expense reductions to decrease this deficit, Article 4, which you just approved, allows us to use part of the stabilization fund to balance the budget. This fund is obviously very important in that it helps us maintain our AAA rating, but it also provides emergency funds. We currently have $4.5 million in the stabilization fund. I think we all agreed, and you just confirmed this, that this is the pandemic is a true emergency. I want to offer a special thanks to Finance Director Carol Capula, who continually responded to our request for the latest financial assumptions and for tracking state requirements. A very difficult position at best, as the assumptions were, as I mentioned before, always changing. Although moving forward with the town's comprehensive wastewater management plan remains a top priority, we have delayed further town action until next year's spring town meeting. This delay was felt necessary to manage the time at this town meeting, and more importantly, to pause to reevaluate the plan as additional water data, which we use as a surrogate for potential sewer flows, and may alter our wastewater plans as they become more available. Now is also the time to carefully determine the best ways to take advantage of a potential regional sewer plant with Dennis and Yarmouth. As reported in local news, the Conservation Law Foundation has increased its pressure on the Environmental Protection Agency, our own state's Department of Environmental Protection, and local entities to move our wastewater issues. This is a dynamic plan in which we continue efforts to reduce costs as we can, and are also always considering new technologies. As always, and again you've shown this today, we encourage participation as much as possible. I too wish to recognize Jack Brown for all he's done in the Finance Committee and actually other committees he's worked with on town. And also to thank Dana DeCosta for stepping up, which actually turned out to be some of the last minute aid to help Finance Committee and chair that committee. I obviously too, I get the privilege of reporting for the Board of Selectmen, but I want to thank them for working tirelessly on behalf of the town. My hat's off to my fellow selectmen. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ballantyne. So we're on Article 5. We have a motion to adopt the budget with the changes as read by Mr. DeCosta. Is any debate? Mr. Thompson, take him that? Right here.
No, I want clean.
Pardon?
I want clean this one.
Okay.
Yes.
I think they're going to, Alan, do you want to come use this or? Okay. All right, I guess it's coming to you. And it's cleaned.
My question is, on Article 5, is that the amount of money that's being proposed further, that $730,290 be raised and appropriated in the general fund operating budget and allocated to the water enterprise fund. Well, I'm just trying to understand, is the $730,290 of indirect costs in the water enterprise fund? And that's money that's usually transferred from earned income at the water department to the general government for their support in accounting, treasury, and those kinds of services to the water enterprise fund. So if it's just a language issue there, or you're actually adding that $730,290 to the tax rate. So if you could help me out on that one, I'd appreciate it.
Somebody want to respond to Mr. Thompson's question? Carol?
Hi, good morning. You are correct. The amount is being raised in the general fund to support the indirect costs of the water enterprise fund. But then we transfer in a revenue source from water enterprise fund but that's a revenue source. So we have to, you can't hear?
Can you pull it down? There, okay.
Okay, I'll start over. You are correct, Mr. Thompson, that the amount represents indirect costs for the water enterprise fund. It's appropriated in the general fund, and then there's a revenue source that comes in from the water enterprise fund to offset that so that it's not being raised in taxes.
Mr. Thompson is nodding satisfaction and relief, I think. Further debate on the motion under the budget. Mr. DaCosta? Oh, okay. Just doing some wiping. Yes, this gentleman in the middle. I think there's a mic coming to you.
235 Bay Road. I think as we navigate today, first, I do think the town's done a nice job of proposing a conservative budget. However, I was opposed to using the stabilization fund to fund this year's spending. I think we should live within the revenue stream that we project. Also, I think it's important to know that the budget has increased 24% since 2018. Howard still has one of the highest tax rates on Cape Cod and certainly is above all of our surrounding towns. We have increased our employment in the operating budget by about 30 full-time equivalents over the last decade. The population in Howard has not grown at all over the last decade. Lastly, we have huge capital challenges. The sewer build-out is projected to be $300 million, and that's like building a new high school, here we are today, every 5 or 6 years. So as we navigate the day and look at the spending and where we're going as a town, I think it's very important to have a historical perspective and then also understand that we have huge financial pressure, mainly driven by, I'll call it, increased employment in the town and very big capital challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conroy. Just so everybody's clear, the stabilization transfer that he said he objected to, that was in Article 4, so that's not in this motion. That's been done.
For it, you'll get a proper bylaw that does what we want it to do. You'll give the opportunity for the selectmen to ask the state for help in funding. Maybe part of deposits can go towards it, whatever. Right now, there's nothing like that in this. They're just saying, do it, and starting next September, you'll be forced to do it. Thank you.
Further debate? Yes, ma'am, in the middle was standing.
And it's not because I am not an environmentalist, because I am. I oppose this because it's discriminatory. Why water? We want people to drink water. We don't want them to drink soda. We don't want them to drink Gatorade. We don't want them to drink alcohol. We want them to drink water. I want my kids to drink water. So, why are we targeting water? I went to the Mobile on 124 before town meeting today, and I bought all these water bottles to check out what the plastic is. I also bought the waters that will be allowed. I bought the seltzer, I bought the flavored water, and I bought the Gatorade. Guess what? It's all the same plastic. It's the exact same thing. So why are we targeting water only? It doesn't make any sense. That's the first point. The second point is this. The definition in the article says, a single-use plastic bottle is a beverage container made from any type of plastic resin. Well, Judith Underwood informed me the other day on Facebook, and I'm sure many of you saw, plastic has nothing to do with the oil industry. Plastic has to do with molecule structure. And guess what? There are plastics being made from biodegradable products right now. So down the road, when we do have biodegradable plastics, you can't use those either. So this definition is bogus. Okay, so that's another thing. Lastly, I'd like to point out that this particular petition is creating a job description for our town administrator. It's putting a job onto him or her, whoever it will be in the future as well. They are responsible for being the policing agent. Since when does a consumer petition create the job description? The way they're going about this is all wrong. You don't ban something when you want people to change their behavior. You lead by example. I applaud the idea, but lead by example and educate people. Don't try to ban things.
Further debate, Mr. Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. You've been hearing considerable discussion about the recycling or not recycling. I want to go back to my prior life before I showed up in Harwich 30 years ago. One of the things that I did for the federal government is I contracted for EPA for recycling of materials that were generated in federal buildings in New York, New Jersey, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. I had substantial conversations with EPA representatives about the recycling and how it could possibly work. There's a very large economic component in this. There needs to be an aftermarket for you to recycle. The hoax that Patrick is talking about is that the petrochemical industry has basically than recycled plastic. You guys are not recycling your plastic. You're simply creating a different trash stream, whether you use the plastic or not. There's a cost to that. We're not getting money anymore when a truck goes out from our dump or transfer station with plastic on it. And I think you should understand that. My perspective on this has changed over the last few years, considering I'm raising a 13-year-old now who's a legal guardian. I don't want to leave a life to the next generation, which is awash in plastic, which is really what's happened. Many of you out there in the audience can recall getting a Coke or Pepsi out of a machine, out of a glass bottle. That wasn't recycled, it was sanitized and it was refilled. Somehow we've gotten to the point where it's inconvenient for us to bring our own container and fill it up with water. I don't understand how we've gotten to this point, but we need to take a stand. And I do differ with Mr. DeCosta. It does start with us. If it doesn't start with us, who then?
Any further debate on the motion under Article 42? This woman right here in the front first, and then I'll go over here to the gentleman on the left. Hold on a second, we're getting you a microphone. It's coming right up.
I'm Cynthia Taft-Bayrill from Dundee Circle, and I support this petition, having been on the Board of Health here in Harwich when the single-use bag plastic went through. That was initially, folks were against that. It went through, and when people saw how easy it was to ease on over to reusable bags, I think people were very supportive. And the town doesn't monitor single bag use, so I don't think this we're adding a job to the town administrator. And also having been in the prevention and wellness unit at the Department of Public Health, and we did study how other states do move on these issues. I think that maybe in order to move on this, maybe there might be other groups within town, or maybe partnering with the Board of Health might help the town officials to get the facts that they need. But I agree with Dana, that we need to move on this, and we maybe need to gather the facts, but we shouldn't just can it. The single bag initiative was raised by the citizens of Harwich, not by the Board of Health or anyone else. The people were initially very angry because they thought the single bag restriction came from the town. And I, having worked at the Department of Public Health myself, I went over to a number of people in Stop and Shop when they were bitching and moaning about the bag and said, excuse me, introduced myself, and I said, I'd just like you to know that it was your fellow citizens that initiated this. It wasn't the town because another activity because they're bored. So I really think that we need to move on this, and if we need a few other bits of information, I would call and get in contact with the Massachusetts Department of Public Health and with the Board of Health here and see how a number of interested parties of officials and citizens can help move this forward. Thank you.
All right, next I had a gentleman was standing over here. Yes, with the orange hat on.
I speak in strong favor of this article. This is action we can take now. It's not something to be postponed. It's not perfect. It does not include NIPS. Cape Cod Times says 1/3 of the trash roadside are NIPS. But this is something important that we citizens can do now. This is at beginning. Thank you.
Further debate. Who's next? I see a hand waving over here. Judith Underhill.
Oh, there you go.
Judith, hold on one second. I guess this woman was standing before you, and I'll recognize her first. Go ahead, ma'am.
Mary Albus, West Harwich. I'd like to piggyback on my neighbor Sebastian's support for this. This is a global problem. We all know that. The fact that Harwich might have 12% waste that's plastic bottles, I don't think that matters. We need to look at the bigger picture here. Harwich needs to jump on this and ban plastic, so bothered to bring here. But that's not going to happen overnight. We need to start now, okay? This is a small step. Falmouth has gone even farther. Not only did they ban plastic water bottles, they banned nips. Think about that. I once worked at a liquor store. There are a lot of nips that are sold. Falmouth knows that that's going to be an economic hit to their liquor stores. They banned it because they said, we are sick of the pollution. I have the very good fortune to live on the cusp of Bell's Neck Conservation Land. I spend a lot of time there. I bet a lot of you do too. And a lot of our visitors do as well, especially during COVID. I would have to say about 80% of the trash I see up there are plastic water bottles. They're just thrown aside in their trash cans up there. So please support this. It is a start, and this is a huge problem on Cape Cod and globally. Thank you.
All right, next I had Judith Underhill over here to the left.
Judith Underwood, Harwich.
Judith Underwood, I'm sorry.
It's
Yep.
okay. I like the hill, yeah. I'm one of your water commissioners, but I want to make clear that I'm not up here speaking as a water commissioner. I'm speaking as an individual. However, I would like to give a shout out to Patrick for recognizing that we in Harwich have a winning water, the best in the state, they say. And we have an unbelievable water department. Like, these guys and women work so hard for us. Plastic, if you look in the dictionary, it still refers to anything that is oil or gas based. 5 years from now, there may be some kind of material made from perhaps seaweed that can hold a beverage. We're not there yet. For those of you that know me, in my private life, I work with companies and universities and nonprofits that are creating solutions for clean water and healthy and secure oceans, including the Navy. And I can tell you that having spent time up at Draper Labs, up in Kendall Square in Cambridge, those are the folks that put us up on the moon. They are the brightest minds that we have in this country that work on problems. I was up at a microplastic presentation there about a year ago, and I get updates from them all the time, so this has not changed. The plastic bottles, as we know them today, they break down into the microplastics, into the beads, and then they get into the food chain. So we are ingesting that. And they're getting not only into the oceans, but into groundwater as well. And they don't go away. There's a certain point where they don't break down anymore. And that's the issue. And the really cool thing I think about living in our community is we don't have to rely on our Board of Selectmen to bring up every single issue in this town. We can do this as a community, right? That is like so cool that we get to have these town meetings and bring up things like this. And as far as the acting locally and impacting globally, this is happening all over the globe. I don't know if you guys know, but there are now 12 lawsuits by states, communities, and organizations, and one of them is by a group of high school students against the oil companies for climate change issues and for pollution. The state of California is suing them over the fires that they're having now. So this might be a challenge for some people, I get it. But you know, you can put our really good Harwich water in a vessel that you can bring home and clean every day. And I would have mine under my chair right now, but as Mr. Ford pointed out, I'm not the young woman anymore, and I didn't want to run back and forth
No, I
to the
just said
ladies'
you were
room.
not the woman with the hat on.
So please support this initiative. It's really important. We supported the ban on plastic bags, right? That worked out okay. We supported the ban on plastic straws, except in certain cases, obviously, right? But I'm going to do this exercise really quick that we did about the straws. Everybody close your eyes, especially if you're over 35. Think back to your childhood. If you were coming to a football game or you were playing in the football game, would you have had a plastic bottle in your hand? No. You would have gone up to the stand and they would have given you something in a paper cup, for example, right? Or if you were a team player, they would have had one of those big thermoses with water, and you get the little paper cups. Or maybe you had the tin cups, right? Like in Girl Scouts, we had those tin cups when we'd go out on our hikes. Yeah, always tasted funny. Support this. It's important. It's important for you now, you know, right now. And here we are sitting on a pile of plastic, which is kind of funny. Not funny, but please support this. It's really important.
Okay, further debate on this article. Are you standing to speak in the back? Are you waiting to speak? Okay, if we can get a microphone first to this gentleman and then back there, and then I've got somebody over here.
Thank you. My name is Pablo Parada. I'm from Harwich. I also very much support this article. I personally try to lead by example. I care so deeply, in fact, that on a regular basis, I walk my street in my office and I pick up nip bottles, plastic bottles, because our water, I mean, we are a coastal community. And I have to tell you, the amount of plastics in the ocean is tragic. I have traveled extensively. You can go to the most far-flung places in the world where there's not a single soul. Look down on the ground and you will witness all kinds of plastics, bottles inclusive. We are a coastal community. We need to lead by example. This is a very small thing we can do. Retailers will absolutely find ways to sell us water in cups. There's already water in boxes. This is not about denying kids water and giving them sodas. This is about plastics in our water. It's an ecological issue. Thank you.
All right, somebody in the far back, Jana, all the way back, standing. And then I'll get Mr. Valentine. Are you waiting to speak?
Hello, my name is Bonnie Bridges. I live in South Harwich. This initiative builds on the municipal plastic bottle ban in our town. Biodegradable. It lingers in our environment for hundreds of years, killing wildlife, affecting the human food chain. The cost of plastic to our health, the well-being of our environment, and the impact to future generations far outweigh the price being paid. The reality is, are we subsidized with the well-being of the future? I am asking you to join, as 5 other towns on the Cape have done, to say no to plastic water bottles. It is an action that can make a difference. We do not need this product. As citizens, the buck stops here.
Mr. Valentine's next, and then this gentleman here with the hat on.
Thank you. I do, am I on?
You are.
I do feel compelled to say that we debated this as a board and didn't come to an agreement. My own concern is not that we don't want to protect the environment and reduce plastic bottles, but I'm always a little nervous about bans.
He has to
I think
recognize
historically, we've been more successful when we give the reasons, first education, and we give people positive reasons to change their behavior rather than a total ban. But we did have a big discussion and we did have a debate, and we don't have a uniform view on this.
Thank you. This gentleman here with the hat on. Second row. Thank you. There's a microphone coming to you, sir.
How do you get her to be recognized?
John Wheeler from Harwichport. I'd like to move the question.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay. So a motion's been made to move the question. It means to terminate debate. It's a non-debatable motion. It requires a 3/4 majority to pass. All those in favor of the motion to terminate debate, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. If I don't get a unanimous vote, I have to take a standing count because it's a 3/4 majority. I can't declare it. So I'm going to take it one more time. All those in favor of terminating debate and going to a vote on this article, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. It's a unanimous vote, and I so declare it. So we're now going to go to a vote on the motion under Article 42, which is to accept and adopt as printed in the warrant. All those in favor of that motion, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. The motion carries. Article 43. To see if the town will vote to rescind the action taken at the annual town meeting, May 6, 2019, Article 50. Finance Committee does not have a positive motion. Ms. Brown, are you making a motion on this one? Okay. If somebody could get Ms. Brown a microphone.
I move that we accept and adopt the motion, the article as written in the warrant.
Do I hear a second? Okay, I heard a second in the back. So the motion's been made and seconded to accept and adopt the article as printed in the warrant. Ms. Brown.
Okay, so we just voted the previous article, so there's no need for this article to exist anymore. So last year, what we passed was special town meeting to see if the town will vote to adopt the following as a general bylaw and to insert it into the code of the town of Harwich as Chapter 125, Article 1, Section 125.1. The procurement by the town of Harwich of either water or any other beverage in plastic of water or any beverage in plastic containers is prohibited on town property and to act fully thereon. So that was last year. It did not have a policing source, so there was no way to enforce it. And also it put small nonprofit organizations such as Little League, football, Cape Cod Baseball League, Monomoy School District, any other organization that uses town property, it put them at a financial deficit because they were not allowed to sell bottled beverages in plastic containers. Most beverages do come in plastic containers. The ones that are boxed are much more money. Glass is much more money. I do bottles of water at craft fairs, and that would help fund many of their field trips and supplies. And they were not able to do that because they didn't have a pool of resources to buy glass or boxed water, for instance. So now that we have this new article where we can't sell plastic water, I'm asking you to vote yes for my article and rescind last year's action.
Before I ask for further debate, I've been handed a note that the Board of Selectmen voted 4-0 for indefinite postponement. They were looking to postpone this article, so they're 4-0 against the article. Is there any further debate? Yes, Mr. McManus.
The article that we passed last year actually had a date of becoming effective that would have only affected this year. Unfortunately, this year, all of the events that Ms. Brown refers to have been canceled, so we don't actually know what the impact on nonprofits were. I'm involved with the Harwich Cranberry Festival, and as a organization, we decided to the extent we could to enforce the ban that was passed, even though it wasn't truly effective until the end of last year, and we did so by, instead of selling water bottles and other bottles of things, we put out a large 10-gallon container with a spout and a stack of cups for people to use if they were attending one of our craft fairs or the Cranberry Festival. And I think many folks very much appreciated the fact that they could get a drink of water to quench their thirst without having to shell out $2. It was, I think, one of the most popular things we had done in a long time. To rescind this effort, I think, is misguided. It is building upon what we just passed, and I think it should stay in place. Thank you.
Any further debate on the motion under Article 43? Is that Mr. Otto in the back? Yes. We'll get your microphones coming your way.
Again, Patrick Otten. So to refer to last year's municipal ban, which was passed, it refers to any plastic container and the sale or distribution of plastic containers on town property. So this is a little bit broader than just simply plastic water bottle, single-use water. It said that he used paper cups in place of plastics. So that's a viable option. In terms of making profit off of selling items, there are plenty of alternatives. So just simply saying that they're no longer profitable is not true. Thank you.
Any further debate on the motion under Article 43, which is accept and adopt the rescission? Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to quickly add that there is a small connection between this, any lost revenue or sales or even inconvenience is connected to the discussion that's been happening nationally about racial justice, because the cost to us is very affordable, really, when we consider the cost to other distant places in the world that are affected by the consumer lifestyle that we are leading and guiding the entire global trend with a sense of righteousness, and that we are doing our part because we have also done so much damage.
Any further debate on the motion to rescind? It looks like you're ready for a vote. The motion under Article 43 is to accept and adopt. All those in favor? So motion does not carry. Article 44. The Finance Committee did not have a positive motion on this one. Who's making the positive motion out there? Is Deborah Ennis going to make it?
I move that the town adopt the language set out in the article, not as a bylaw, but rather in the form of a resolution, and request the Board of Selectmen to convene a public forum for the purpose of discussing this resolution and the question of whether a bylaw is necessary in order to implement a climate policy for the town that is consistent with this resolution.
Do I hear a second? Okay, so the petitioner has made a motion not to adopt this as a bylaw, but to adopt this language as a resolution and request the Board of Selectmen to convene, if this passes, a public forum for the purpose of discussing that resolution and the question of whether there should be a bylaw going forward to implement a climate policy that's consistent with the language in the resolution. So would you like to speak to your motion, Ms. Ennis?
I would, thank you.
Okay, you're recognized.
So I live on Birch Drive, and I've never spoken at town meeting before, so I'm a bit nervous.
That's okay.
And I'm here because I really care about our fragile environment and the effects of climate change. And I'm sure we're all aware of some of the extreme weather conditions around the country, the fires in the West, the hurricanes in the Gulf Coast, the freak tornado that came through Harwich last July, and the melting and breaking up of the Antarctic ice sheets. And there's consequences to these weather conditions having to do with disruption of life as we're used to, displacement of people looking for a more sustainable place to. I could go on, but you're probably all familiar with a lot of these things. And what I'm aware of is how easy it is to say, what can I do? And to feel kind of hopeless and discouraged about the situation. So as a concerned citizen in Harwich, along with others, I've been involved with bringing this article to the town meeting for a vote so that we can show our town leaders as well as other residents of Harwich that we're concerned about the effects of climate disruption and that we want to do what we can. And that starts with learning more, making changes towards reducing our fossil fuel consumption, and getting things like this recognized here at town meeting so that we can all take some steps in the right direction, along with the 14 other towns on the Cape who have a similar article at their town meetings, and asking our town leaders to do all they can within the range of what's economically and technically feasible. So there's no cost associated with this resolution, but that it will be something that we'll continue looking at. so that we can leave a better environment and a clean and beautiful Cape Cod to our children and grandchildren. So I ask you to vote yes on this resolution. Thank you.
Any further debate on the resolution? I see a hand up in the middle. Over here.
And lack of rain force water use limits, threaten, I have to mow my lawn but for 3 times this whole summer. That's absurd. I support this motion, strongly support this as a resolution, and I thank you for bringing it up.
Any further debate on the motion under Article 44? It looks like you're ready for a vote. Again, this motion, and it requests the selectmen to convene a public forum for the purpose of discussing the resolution and the question of whether a bylaw is necessary in order to implement a climate. Saying no. It is a vote. Article 45. See if the town will vote to raise the Cultural Council annual allocation for community grant awards to artists, performers, and interpretive scientists who bring events and programs to local venues, tactfully thereon. Mr. DeCosta.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant, and that the sum of $33,900 be transferred from free cash for the purpose of this article.
The motion under Article transferred from free cash for this purpose. Is there any debate? Hearing none, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as read, so signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed by saying no. It is a vote. Article 46, excuse me. To see what action the town will take in regard to the herring fish.
I move that this article be accepted and adopted as printed in the warrant.
It's been moved and seconded that the article be accepted and adopted as printed. Mr. DeCosta.
Sorry. Each year I usually look at the counting of the herring at the feeling that winter is finally over. At the time of the herring count this year, due to the many catastrophes, events in town, we were all facing a lot of pain. Pain of loss, physical pain, emotional pain, and help. At the time of the herring count, the financial people who worked and volunteered for you were looking at a $4.5 million deficit and wondering how we were going to make all this work. At that time, there were no signs of coming out of it. Then Commonwealth. And as schools of herring worked their way up the fish ladder, scores of golfers stroked their way up the first fairway at Cranberry Valley. And we counted every one of them. Over 500 golfers signed up in a week, and it was the first real sign that things might get better. Our director of finance, Carol, will need to play golf. Then as we rolled into June, we counted the beachgoers, and we counted the trash dumpers. We counted everything, and soon the counts were going in a much better direction. And like the counting of the herring each spring, there was a new sense of optimism. The Finance Committee wants to thank all of you for support for this article. Thank you.
I have a gentleman in the middle who would like to say something.
Thank you. Richard Houston, Harwich Center.
I couldn't recognize you behind that mask, Rich.
That's a good thing. I think we would be remiss if we article.
Yes, thank you.
And one of the casualties, shall we say, many students at the high school were unable to do their visual count up at Hinckley's Pond Fish Ladder this year because of the safety concerns. But the almost 1 million fish that came through.
I saw that,
So,
yeah.
as Marge used to like to say, the herring fishery is healthy.
Right.
So,
well, thank you for bringing that along and mentioning Marge. But if there's anyone else who has anything they want to say on this article? No? All right, all those in favor of the motion to accept and adopt the Article 46, so signify by saying aye. And those opposed by saying no. The motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn the annual town meeting.
Mr. Moderator?
It's been moved. I'm sorry, did somebody say something?
Over here? Over here?
Yes.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to reconsider our...
So a motion has been brought before we close the town meeting to reconsider the single-use plastic water bottle ban that